Hi, my name's Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. Last Sunday, I read a list of all the teams that have made it to the Stanley Cup final in the last 18 years, since 2000. And what's interesting about the list is that it includes a whole variety of teams, but it lacks one team that matters to me at least, Toronto. Toronto's not on that list. They haven't been in the Stanley Cup, actually, not since 2000, since 1967. They haven't made it to the Stanley Cup final, let alone winning it since that day. And it's an amazing losing streak when you think about it. 50 plus years of losing. I mean, I know they've had decent teams here and there, and they made it to the Final Four a few times, but they haven't made it to the ultimate championship experience. You know, just by odds, the team should be making it to the final, the Stanley Cup, once every 15 years. And they should be winning it on odds once every 30 years. Yet nothing for 50 plus years. And how do you account for that when you compare it to other franchises that are so successful? Like, look at the Patriots in the NFL. And since 2000, they've made it to the Super Bowl 8 times. And they won it 5 times. And they made it to the playoffs 15 out of 18 seasons. No, so the Patriots are a superbly winning franchise. And you got to compare that to the Leafs, who are a superbly losing franchise. And what it tells me, in a sense, is that streaks have a life of their own. That success builds success and failure builds failure. And it's hard to change the streak that you're on, especially when you're on a losing streak. In the Bible, it says that the Israelites, the Hebrew people, were on a long-term losing streak. They had developed this losing streak living in Egypt, and they'd gotten released from Egypt, and they'd gotten to the borders of the Promised Land. Moses had taken them to the border of the Promised Land, and they're staring into the promise of their future. And they see in the Promised Land these successful franchises that have a tradition of winning. And in that moment, because they doubt God and they doubt themselves, they flinch, they choke, literally, and back into the wilderness they go. And in a sense, God reconstitutes the franchise there. You know, the coach has changed, Moses dies, and Joshua comes up to be the new coach. And the people live in the wilderness so that a new generation of Hebrew people can come to the fore. The franchise, in one sense, has changed the coaching and the participants, but the spirit is still untested. And when Joshua brings the people again to the border of the Promised Land and they stare into the promise of their future, it's uncertain what is going to happen. I think when we're on losing streaks, and I think most of us have experienced losing streaks of one type or another, know just how hard it is to change it. I've met people who have been on a losing streak and keeping their weight under control, and they've struggled with that decade after decade after decade, to the point where they've given up hope that they will have any difference going forward than they've had in the past. They have no reasonable expectation that anything's going to change in their life. And when they stare into the promise of their future, they don't see anything. I've met people who've struggled in employment, in relationships. People have had a series of failures in relationships with others, and they've come to the point where they don't have reasonable expectation that anything in the future is going to be different in the past. And what I've learned over the years about this, how to change the losing streak, is that we need to focus our attention on something other than what we've been up to. In a sense, we often complain, criticize, and gossip. We engage in a commentary on life as a way of explaining our failure or giving expression to it. And it seems to me that one of the ways we grow in life is putting aside the commentary that we bring to our lives and replacing it with something better. For instance, I think we should put our attention on being filled with gratefulness and thankfulness. To be grateful and thankful for all the blessings that are happening in our lives, and there are a multitude of them. Even in our difficulties, we experience a multitude of blessings in our lives, and to give thanks and praise for that is an important part of changing the spirit. Putting our attention on praising others and lifting ourselves up from focusing on ourselves, so important. Focusing on the good things that are happening in our lives, for instance, and the success we're experiencing. Even in the difficulties, good things are happening and things are working out in the way that they should. If we change the spirit of our lives, we will find that the outcome will change. And in the midst of our new spirit, the losing streak will come to an end.